I'll make sure you get that. I'll make sure you get that. Correct. So I want you to tell me, and that question is loaded. I'm going to give you the mic. Yes. And I hope you do. Because that question comes from a deep place. Because we cannot perhaps blame our parents for having these. So let me know where you're coming from. Let us know where you're coming from.
No, because why I come with it is that most people say I went to a funeral just Monday, and she was 50, and she died of diabetes. She was a nurse too, and everybody's saying her parents has it. This is why she inherited. And I'm saying to myself, she was a nurse with her PhD and all of that. How could she die of diabetes? Where they found her dead in her apartment. So this is why I asked a question. And she wasn't just like a ordinary nurse. She takes care of patients. She went to the highest degree in nursing. So I don't understand it. I'm keep asking myself because now how could she die of diabetes?
And the question is, how could he be so smart and be so dumb? Because people get sick and people are vulnerable. So, what exactly is diabetes? Let's talk about that. Diabetes, in effect, as we know it, is a medical condition in which your body cannot produce the natural rhythm needed to control sugar. That's what diabetes is. So there is that organ that nobody likes to talk about is the pancreas. And that is one of the sickest organs when it gets sick. Pancreatic cancer, I mean, that's a beast. So so when you get diabetes, unfortunately, it's usually you've been pre-diabetic for sometimes about 10 years. So it's not sudden. It's subtle, but it's not sudden. There are two different types of diabetes. There's type 1. Unfortunately, in type 1, you're born without the cells that produce insulin. So you've never had a chance. So that's congenital, type 1, given. Not hereditary, but congenital. Because of the developmental process, you didn't have those cells. Type 2, however, which typically we would see in older adults, 40s, 50s, 60s, and above. Now we're seeing it in the 13-year-old and 14-year-old. Is that congenital, type 1, or is it type 2? What happened? It is very unfair when we don't understand our relationship with food and we suffer because of it. And there is nothing more important than to acknowledge that in a stressful environment, even a nurse, a lawyer, a teacher, a physical therapist, a young child who has to hustle and bustle doesn't have regular meals because the parents are working so hard, not neglectful, but working so hard. there are conditions that unfortunately can potentiate or that can cause us maybe not to pay attention to our diets. And you're doing your best. I mean, the guilt is there. You beat yourself up enough, much as people telling you. You know. You already know. So your sister could possibly have in that moment gone into a diabetic ketoacidotic situation. So what does that mean? That our bodies need certain types of sugars to function. If we actually process the sugar, the insulin properly, you eat a meal, the sugar goes up in the body, the insulin comes, and it just calms everything down. And we digest the food. When you are a brittle diabetic, meaning that your pancreas just is not working, it's not doing its thing, and we're not giving you insulin, you're not getting insulin because your body needs it, you will lose so much weight. And you could eat whatever you want, but your body is starving. That glucose is not going into your body. So there are people who come back and they'll tell you, I was diagnosed with diabetes, but you're so thin. Well, that's why. Because you've just put yourself into a state where, unfortunately, you became diabetic. So perhaps in that moment, if your sugar goes too high, the brain can't function because the glucose it needs to actually be able to function, think, blood flow, it just shuts off and you go into a coma instantly. Instantly. There are some medications that actually can cause it to happen. There are chemotherapy meds. When people take them, it affects the pancreas. And if you have pancreatitis, et cetera, et cetera. So when we start to have a discussion and stop putting blame on people about, people feel bad enough. That's where compassion comes in for any disease. You know, you're going to judge somebody, you're going to say this, you're going to say that, but really and truly, you have to change that first. But why doesn't somebody exercise? Why don't you want to feel fit, look fit? You know, is it your habit? Were you in Jamaica or Guyana or in the Cameroon? Were you really exercising? Is it really your thing? I can, as a physician, say a lot about the food that we eat, the Adventist food. It's a lot of salt, a lot of preservatives, you know, but psychologically we feel better because we know, but perhaps if we make our own naturally, you know, there are better ingredients we can select. Recently, I went to my son's open night, and there's a teacher who actually I wanted to go back in the 6th grade when she was stopped talking. This teacher said she did an experiment. She got the fries from McDonald's. She bought French fries. She made, she cut them up, made them, brought them in. Like from 4 different fast food restaurants. Oh my gosh. And then she laid on us that there's an ingredient that they put in their McDonald's fries that is banned in Europe because it causes cancer. Really? Really? Our bodies have something called a satiety center. You eat it, you feel good, you go back. You eat it, you feel good, you go back. You eat it, you feel good, you go back. And then when you go to the Caribbean, you're like, whoa, that wasn't good. Because all of a sudden, it's different. So thank you for opening up that question. There's no guilt. Just ask your questions. Because if you recognize it and you have a conversation with yourself, that's where you heal. That's where you get better.
But they do die. Doctors do die.
So hold on one second. Your question is valid, it's loaded, we can stay all night. What is the number one reason why young physicians die today? Yes. Cancer and suicide. When doctors are being trained, if they stop thinking about a patient, they're weak. Seriously, you're said to be weak, they haze you. My first patient who died, HIV, TB, isolation, and I remember working on that patient for like 2 months. Went up, he died, pronounced him, and then his mother, we were all in a room, his mother told me the sad part is my other son will die soon. This was 2004, because they both injected drugs together and they passed it on. I remember crying. I walked out. I went back where we were doing morning rounds, and I had tears in my eyes, and I think maybe one slipped out. Oh my goodness, one slipped out. And they said, "What happened to you?" And I told them, and then I was hazed. Doctors don't cry. And we worked at that point sometimes 90 hours a week. Have you ever worked 90 hours a week? The doctor is not your enemy. Empathize. When you empathize with the doctor, like you empathize with your mechanic, because, you get different results. You have the power. I am telling you, if you are going to light a match, you're going to start a fire. Doctors are people. If you don't find the kind of doctor who is telling you what you want to hear, is it because you don't want to hear, or is it because they're telling you the truth? Examine first your relationship. When young students question their teachers, I love it. They can question all they want, but the fact is the fact sometimes. So I know we appreciate your question. We really do. But it's not the doctor's fault. It's not the therapist's fault. You are a vessel of Christ. We spend years in isolation studying. Because in order to understand one thing, you have to know 20. Becoming a doctor is grueling and isolating, and it leaves your mind open to all sorts of things. Please, 4 years undergrad, 4 years medical school, and then God forbid if you're somebody like me, you did 2 years. I did a master's in biomedical sciences. Then after that, you can do a fellowship, and then after that, and I'm still in school doing an MBA. So please, that knowledge that your doctor has can benefit you. If you don't want to take a treatment, Don't take it. But don't antagonize the person giving it to you. It's like going to a therapist and they tell you, no, you like that because of your mother. Think about what that person's saying first. Examine self first. And then, I have young men that come in all the time for STD checks. Are they coming in because they're virgins? Really? There's something that tickles us, that puts some type of an action in place. When you don't assert, when you inquire, when you don't try to bully, when you try to appease, when you use those skills of negotiation, you will figure out one day your life just open up. Trust me, we need to figure out why we have such a difficult time sometimes getting information. It is not oppositional, it's additive.
Good evening, church. Good afternoon, I should say. Thank you for staying. I really appreciate it because I usually try to run home also. So I really appreciate it. Truly, truly appreciate it. And this afternoon, we have something special for you. We brought great minds together and to open up to whatever topics, health topics. But you know my wife, Dr. Isaac Charles, family practitioner. And I'm not going to go through all the other list of things that she does. I was very blessed, and my colleague, Dr. Mary Odoyulo, she's from Southside Hospital. She's an internal medicine physician. She's also actually, first and foremost, she's actually a Christian. She sometimes teaches Bible studies at her church for the children. So that's kind of how we started talking, and so that's first and foremost. She's a Christian. Secondly, she's a physician. She's a very caring physician. And of course, we have our own Sister Clue, social worker. And from somebody who works in the emergency department, I'll tell you, social workers are very important. Very important. It's like a key clog that keeps the engine running. If I don't have a good social worker that day, it just sometimes helps with the disposition. It makes the disposition of the patients a lot more difficult. So she works on outside, and she has a ton of knowledge and information. So, and myself, emergency room physician. So, no questions about nutrition, please. All right, I'm going to open up the floor to some various questions. Please have a seat, ladies. And I'm going to give a mic. And we can open up the floor. This is really a free-flowing topic. Today's Health Day. And I'm sure you guys have lots of questions, but we can go and touch on diabetes. We can touch on blood pressure, Alzheimer's, what to do when you walk into the emergency department, what questions to ask. It doesn't always have to be specifically health specific or disease specific. Sometimes it's good to know the inner working. For example, when you get admitted to the hospital, especially since Dr. Odiula, she works on the floor. I work in the emergency department, so I never go up to the floor. So knowing that other side of it. My wife, outside family practitioner, so you get the outpatient, point of view. So you have a mixture of everything here. So I'm going to open up the floor to, does anybody have any questions? Oh, we already have one. And then if there's anything, then I guess we'll get started.
When our children are going into adolescence, it seems like their appetites are changing. They don't want to eat the same. They don't want to eat at all. My kids will come home from school. They don't want food all the way up into the evening. And I'm trying to find a way to feed them. Even if I've made a balanced meal, they don't want it. And I'm concerned about whether they're going to get tired or hungry at school, or, maybe they'll fall out at school because he doesn't One doesn't want breakfast. Made breakfast, they don't want it. They come home, they don't want dinner. It worries me. My concern. Appetite and not wanting to eat.
So, pediatricians, this is one of the bane of their existence. Changes in age, stage, phase, and of course, diet. Some children in the beginning of life are picky eaters, and then they are okay later on, and it can be reversed. As a parent, if a child doesn't want to eat a large meal in the morning, they have to eat something. Because the body is still in a state of fasting the whole night. There has to be some protein or vegetable, however small, and at least a glass of water in the morning. And then, so we're talking more, it doesn't have to be a big meal. It could be a portion-controlled meal. Encourage that child to eat. It's still a part of the formation of character, relationship with food. And so exercise a lot of times can open up the appetites of children. You can have a healthy discussion with your child. What do you want to eat? And if you don't want to eat something in particular, why or why not? And just have options. Say, you may not want to eat that, but you have 4 options. Give them options, but they have to pick at least one. I hope that's helpful.
I was asking her if her children have a lot of snack between the meals. Because sometimes when children have a lot of snack, they don't want to eat.
Are your children eating a lot of snacks to maybe supplement?
So one quick way, unfortunately, parents, to know if your child is eating, is to weigh them. If your child is not losing weight, he or she is eating. You may not observe it, but as Sister Clue, please.
Do they eat at school? There's a lot of ways that children are eating at they like may not be good. They like their pizza. They may have had a slice before they get home. So they're at different places at different time, and they could have ate. So maybe we want to like zoom in on that. Just ask them. And one parent I saw did a great thing. They take the children to the supermarket with them. So the child will pick out exactly what they would want to eat, and they would buy it. So now the child has in the house what they want to eat. Maybe you could talk to them. Maybe you could try that. And there are different things that other parents try.
Okay, I have a question then. Sister Clue. In terms of elder care and sometimes elder abuse, what type of signs maybe you may have for, family members or even, concerned people in the community for in terms of elder abuse and elder care?
Great question, because Alzheimer's is what I came prepared to talk about today. Yeah, it's like a really big deal. No, elder abuse can be subtle. And this is the thing. You could probably see some because a lot of people do home health care. And with that knowledge, they themselves may be an abuser. A lot of them are. Also, because of the time they spend with these individuals, they themselves can also tell if the individual has been abused. Now, some things are maybe they don't want to eat because that person who's caring for them constantly give them the same thing, something they don't want, but they just stop eating because you're not giving me what I want. You're giving me what you want. So now they don't eat. And a lot of them are like that, because people have no patience. Well, I made some porridge, my West Indian folks, and that's what you're going to drink. But I don't drink porridge. Well, I'm taking care of you. So you eat what I give you. Well, so I just won't eat. And they're different. They're mental abuse. because they're elderly. People usually abuse them mentally. You scream at them, you shout at them, you take away their privileges as if they're a child, which in most cases they really are again. So you take away their privileges. Well, you're not going to call your daughter today because I'm going to keep the phone right over here. And so that person may be used to calling their child at a certain time in the day, say hi. The child may be in another country, far away, another state. So now for the next 2, 3 days, you withhold those stuff. You don't allow them to do it, or I'm not going to give you a shower today because that may be somebody who needs help in getting their shower. So you take away their primary privileges. Some people actually go that extra mile by hitting the person. They do. Now, a lot of my clients that I see, it's mostly financial abuse. People will take all their money. Last week, I had a client and she had a lot of money. She was getting quite a couple $1,000s in her SSI and her pension. Obviously, she worked and worked a very good job. But her rent hasn't been paid for 12 months, not a dime. So, where is your money? And sometimes they're not able to say, they're like, I don't know. I remember writing a check, and he or she probably wrote that check 2 years ago, and now she doesn't remember because the caretaker is taking all the money and pays no bill. Or they will coming and they want some food stamps, but why? Because you're living all by yourself with thousands of dollars for the month. Why do you need it? I don't know, but I have no food. And if you send APS over there, which is the Adult Protective Services, you'll find they have no food. For real, the house is empty because there's somebody, maybe the caretaker, maybe a son, a daughter, a grandchild, whoever it is. But there is somebody there that's removing all their essentials and they're just sitting looking stranded. And I'm happy you mentioned the neighborhood, the neighbor, because usually they're the ones who will say, a neighbor may be looking because they may be living next to this person for 20, 25 years, and they know that something is not right over there. She's outside and it's 11 at night, at 10 at night, it's cold. Why is she outside? And they'll notice I had a case just like that last week. They actually, the niece actually took over the person's apartment and put her outside. And she brought her 4 children and her husband, everybody in the apartment. And the poor lady, and it almost got me. I was just sitting there reading the case and I realized, hold up, but this lady signed a lease this year. It's still 2019. How could the apartment not be hers? And that's when because sometimes you have so much work, you can't really read everything in depth. I'm like, this is her apartment. Hold on, let me give them a call. And she wonderfully tells me. She had no shame in her game. I'm like, okay, but it's not your apartment though. So how you gonna put the owner of the apartment? But obviously this poor lady, she's 94. And what is she gonna do? She's gonna fight a young girl with her husband and 4 kids. What is she gonna do? She's gonna be outside. She's gonna be hungry. So the neighbors called and things started rolling from there. So people will do stuff, but you will be able to see it. We have a brain, like you were saying before, and you can see if a child comes to church every week and that child is not being cared for, after a while you'll know. You will know. You'll see it, and it's good, folks, if you have your elderly parent or family member, always make sure, if you don't live with them, make some kind of friend with the neighbors. So every now and again, you can give the neighbor a call and just ask them, my mom okay? When was the last time you see her or him? What's going on? And we have a lot of services that most people don't avail themselves of, where you can actually get your parents a bracelet. And it's listed in my. And these bracelets will have their names and maybe your number on it. And some of them are great because there are devices that can search for them, because the elderly wonders, and they live in Manhattan and you'll see them in front of the church right here. How did they get here? They don't know. But with that, it will send the beep off, and these folks will know that this person has wandered way too far, and they will send help to come and look for them. So we need to avail ourselves of those things, because there are a lot of elderly people who are missing. A lot of them because they suffer from dementia and these different diseases, and they don't know where they are. And they will never be able to tell you. The doctors can tell with these diseases, they're progressively worse. So they're never, ever going to be able to tell you my child's name, my name, anything at all. I was telling a friend of mine this week, I had the smartest little old lady ever. She was like 98. And her house down, she had this one tiny book. It's this big, right? And she says, Miss, all my stuff is in here. But her son lives in California. He gave her this book, and he writes his address, his name, this, that. It was just so cool. So we were able to use it, because she has everything in there. Now that's smart. Now the thing with the book, I'm glad she took it up, you know. But if they have a cell phone, then put those things in the cell phone. Put those kind of stuff in there. There's somebody come up on them, you could take the phone and you may search and you could see some very interesting stuff. Right now this is September, right? So September is our month of disaster, or preparedness month. It's the disaster. Storm comes in September, October, so you got to be prepared. So if you have your elderly folks, and if you yourself are elderly, which is 60 and 65 and over, you need to prepare for these stuff. You never know what's going to happen. So now you need to make sure you have a list of the medication they take. You have a list of the diseases they have. You have a list of who should be called in case of whatever. So let's say the last time we had a storm, and you may not be affected, but if you lived in my neighborhood, you would have been, because the water was this high. So it's coming through the basement. So they may drown if they live there. If they're by themselves, there are going to be some power outages. There's going to be a lot of stuff going on. So now you need to call the neighbor and ask the neighbor, is my whatever okay? Can you get to this person for me? Can you pick them up? Can you take them out of the house until the disaster passes? So we really need to do that, because I remember after the storm, the very next morning, not even 10 hours later, I had to be working in Fort Rockaway. If you know anything about Fort Rockaway, they have this whole set on beach, like 3 to 9. These buildings has like 32 stories, man. All elderly people, and none of them were out. And ain't nobody walking up 32 flights of stairs, which is 32 times maybe 3. They can't come out. There is no light, no elevator. What do you do? See that? But if you were ahead of your game, you would have known that since this week, the beginning, you go get your elderly parents. There's no way they're going to be able to come out. Unless they're going to jump through a window and they're not going to make it. So we have to think.
Thank you. That's actually a very good point about us talking to our parents, especially as they get older, having tough conversations with your parents. And maybe now you're becoming more of the caregiver than, the roles are being reversed. And sometimes the parents, they made it this far because they were, very strong-headed, very, and now, I see them in the ER and they're not so compliant. So start to have those conversations with your parents, especially when Alzheimer's or dementia starts to hit, it becomes even tougher. We didn't even touch about will or a most form. Do you guys know what a most form? Maybe I'll have the hospitalist here, because that's something that's important. Dr. Adeyula, maybe you want to just talk briefly about what's a most form or living will.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. So most from is basically what you will want to be done to you in case anything happened to you. And the right time to actually start thinking about it is now, when you can still decide what do you want to be done to you. So in case something happened, like, do you want a CPR to be done for you? Like, if your heart stopped beating, do you want somebody to do a chest compression on you? Do you want them to put a tube down your throat, like intubate you? So the form basically asks you what you will want to be done to you. So some people will say, I don't want to live like that. I don't want to be a vegetative. I don't want to put my family into problem. But you have to make the decision now. So when you cannot make the decision yourself, people will not make a selfish decision for you. And that's what I usually tell my patients. I ask them, what would you like to be done for you? And the most form is pink. You really cannot miss it. So people fill it out and they said, I don't want any chest compression to be done on me. If my heart stops, I just want to die. Let me just go. I don't want to be on any tube. No. But if you still want antibiotics to be given, if you want IV fluid to be given, all those are actually listed in the form. So I always tell my patient about the most form, the chest compression and also intubation. If you want a chance, if you want the doctors to give you a chance, you will say, you know what? I want everything done. So in case you say you want everything done, then you indicate in the paper, chest compression can be done, intubation can be done. After intubation, because I always go ahead and a little further to explain to people, like we've had people intubated before and extubated and they're doing well. We've had people intubated, unable to get out of intubation, so they have to go on on a supporting machine for the rest of their lives. But I always tell my patient, like, if you want a chance to be given, why not? Do a chest compression, intubate, and if we're able to take you off the machine, fine. But if you're not able to come off the machine, at that point, you can just say, you know what? That's it. I don't want anybody to put a hole in my throat. Let me just go in peace. But whatever decision you want to make, this is the right time to decide what you want to be done for you. Any question about that? I'm not sure if I'm clear enough. Yes. So, the proxy, you can decide, you can choose somebody to make the decision for you. You know, like you can choose somebody and say, if I'm unable to make a decision, I want you to make the decision for me. So that will be your proxy. But you can always change your proxy at any time. As long as you are competent, as long as you can make a decision, you can withdraw power from your proxy and you can take ownership of your decision.
Okay, great. Thank you. Another, maybe we have a question? Okay.
I have a question, doctor. Most people at times they're not able to decide about hospice, but the family decide for them. Is that a good idea? Or should we put that in our statement to that no hospice because we know what it is?
So that's what I said. Like, right now is the best time to make the decision. If you want to decide now, you can actually put everything in writing, and you can appoint somebody to make the decision for you. But you must have told somebody what you will want, your wish, in case you cannot make the decision. But the hospice is like it's different. You can be home hospice, you can be hospice in a facility, you know. So that is like the hand of life, you know. Like the doctor had already said that the patient had few days or few months to live, and they can just be in hospice. And at that time, you're not doing any, you're not giving any medication to really prolong the life of the patient. You're just making sure that, you know, they're comfortable with the end of life. So you can also decide you want to go to hospice, you want to be in your house, or you want to be in a facility.
There's no food. They stop giving them food.
Well, I really, I really cannot. There is food in hospice. I mean, where I trained in Brooklyn Hospital, and we are privileged to actually have hospice facility in the hospital. So we had patients in our hospice, and we feed them. We actually, the ones that can eat, of course they eat. The one that cannot eat, we can give them IV fluid. Definitely, there is food.
Okay, beautiful. This is your opportunity, ladies and gentlemen. Please feel free to ask questions. If not, I'll. Oh,
Because I know someone who went home for hospice and they did not feed him. So I'm trying to understand the food and lack thereof.
Okay, if someone is placed in hospice, you have to, what is the state of the patient? Is the patient able to eat? You know? So, because if the patient is not able to eat, you're not going to give them food. You can give them like Ensure or all these supplements. Well, I'm not sure who did that, but hospice doesn't mean that you should take away everything. We've had people in hospice that, like I said, the most form has everything. Some people, they are in hospice, and in the most form, they will indicate that if anything happened to me while I'm in home hospice, take me to the hospital. If I need to be given antibiotics, take me to the hospital. And Dr. Charles will tell you, we've had patients in hospice coming back to the hospital and they'll say, you know what? I want antibiotics. And even all these things can be revoked. You can decide to say, I don't want to be hospice anymore. I don't want this thing anymore. I've already indicated that I don't want to be intubated, but I changed my mind. I want to be intubated. And the hospital definitely will give you everything that you want. So there's really nothing that says you can't eat or nothing that says you can't take it back.
Well, I think some of that is for us as physicians, caregivers. We know that patient care is number one. The insurance aspect of it, I mean, we know the law. Just like Dr. Oduyula said, you're allowed to eat. Every case is individual. I don't know. We don't know what specifically was the circumstances behind that particular case. But from our standpoint, and maybe now you have that information. So if you hear somebody not being fed, maybe maybe it's a family member, maybe some elder abuse, maybe somebody's trying to get something, for some alternative motives. So if you know this information now, so you can step up and say, no, this person is allowed to eat, and again, it just goes back to having that conversation with your family member, writing out your specific wishes, and the most form gets very detailed, like IV fluids, but no antibiotics, antibiotics and IV fluids, or no IV fluids, or it's much more specific. So it's something we would recommend, especially as our parents and grandparents. If they're getting older, that's something they should definitely think about when you come into the hospital, especially if they're really, really sick. What else? Anything else? Okay, I had a question. From family medicine standpoint, what do you recommend in terms of managing when a patient's trying to manage their blood pressure, and maybe they are not compliant with their medication? How do you tackle that in trying to help the patient? Because sometimes you will hear the patients like they just don't want to take their medication because of XYZ side effects, but then they don't tell the doctor that they're not taking it. So how do you guys maybe manage that when your patients are maybe you're trying to communicate better with them and trying to help them, or maybe speak to them of side effects and try to get them to believe and trust you?
So high blood pressure, a lot of times, some of the medicines don't agree with everyone. It's a matter of trying to see which one will work for each person. Typically, the first medicine we give is a diuretic, famously hydrochlorothiazide. And there are some people who, because of their jobs, they keep going to the bathroom. They may want to take it, but they have to work. So it's a matter of balancing the person's need to take the medicine and seeing how it works out in his or her job. There are times when you have to actually show a patient, every time you come, your blood pressure is high. And they want you to sit them still, close down the room, and then you take the blood pressure. Well, guess what? Imagine if you're out driving and you have a stressful situation, the blood pressure is going to go really high. So you are really hypertensive. So it's about demonstrating that the person is really hypertensive, the patient accepting that they are hypertensive, and be willing to try your modality, the prescribed modality, medication. Now, there are other things people can do. Watch your diet, watch your salt intake, and exercise. Better sleep. Some people are hypertensive because they have sleep apnea. We have to look for also other causes of hypertension and not just label the person, because you have hypertension because of, genetics. Okay, might be part of it. Familial might be part of it. But it's encouraging the patient to admit first in family practice, outpatient, it's about getting a buy-in from the patient. Patient doesn't trust the provider, he or she is not going to really walk with you down that path. So trust has to be there, mutual understanding, and demonstrating to the patient that perhaps a high blood pressure may have affected the heart. So when I have patients who say, I'm not hypertensive, we do an EKG, we get a reading of the electrical activity of the heart. We might be seeing, well, wow, the heart is enlarged. Well, why is it enlarged? Because that muscle has pumped so much blood around a very high pressure on the body and it gets bigger. It hypertrophies. So sometimes you need to just let the patient understand that high blood pressure is not just a thing, it's their thing. So buying in, a lot of what we do in family medicine, 90% of it is buying in. 90% is a long-term relationship and working with the patient. But it takes time. But you have to meet people where they are. And the best doctors, I believe, they do that.
How do you balance if they come in, since a lot from our culture, West Indian culture and Caribbean culture, they have the bush tea, right? Or they have all. So how do you balance that, or how do you, interact with that if the patient starts to bring up other stuff, maybe more holistic or naturalistic? Not, what are your opinions on that?
You have to believe them because it works. A lot of times it does work. Cucumbers lowers the blood pressure. You have to ask yourself, are you telling them this because of your own ego? Just take the journey with the patient, Just herbs, they work. Is it sustainable? Is it for chronic disease? Perhaps not. Is it for prevention? Absolutely. Absolutely. You have to meet people where they are. We are our culture. The doctor is not the most important person in our lives. Medically, it is our moms, our dads, our neighbor, who will give us their experience. Oh, I'm taking that. You should take that because this is good. They'll believe that person. They trust that person. So it's not about you, the provider. Meet people where they are. Acknowledge. Or if you don't know, if you really don't know, don't dismiss them. Go read about it. You'll be quite shocked.
You got one question. What cause enlarged heart? What cause it?
Well, enlarged heart can be caused by different things. It can be caused by hypertension. Uh, it can be caused as a result of a medication that people are taking. It can be because of heart attack. It can be because of chemotherapy. It can be different things can actually cause it. And some people actually born with it. So.
I have 2 years when I was in New Jersey. I went to my doctor, and after I did the necessary stuff, he said to me that you have enlarged heart. I asked him what caused it. He told me he don't know. So I said, well, if you don't know, I said, okay. He said, I have hypertension. I said, what caused it? He said, don't know. So I said, all right, you don't know. You can't give me an answer. So I have to go and do my research. And he's from the Philippines. And he was my doctor, personal doctor that I go to. So I am one person, when I ask questions, and based upon the answer I receive, I love to go and do my research.
That is great. That is great that you do your research. There's only one person that knows everything, and that's God. So a real good doctor, a real good physician, if they do not know, they will say they do not know. I tell my patients a lot. There's certain things I do not know. Um, my job, especially in the emergency department, is not sometimes to find out why, because that's why there's outpatient workup, there's inpatient workup, because some things you're just not going to find out immediately. So it's all about you. Do you have that trust in that physician, or do you expect him or her to be able to give you an answer all the time? You know, it's taking that journey with the patient. So you have to buy in. Do you trust that doctor? So again, I think my patients trust me when I tell them I don't know because I'm sincere, but I can tell them what I do know. You know. So hopefully, when he told you you have an enlarged heart, he may say he doesn't know why, but he could say it's not because of X, Y, Z, because there are lots of other causes of enlarged heart. So maybe you didn't have those other causes, but I believe like for hypertension, you know, you hear essential hypertension. That's the most common because then that's the one that you don't know why you received and had hypertension, high blood pressure. You just don't know why. So it's okay sometimes not to be afraid if they say they don't know, and go on and do your research. All right. Is there somebody else? All right. I'm going to give you one more. Go ahead.
I'm talking about personal experience. Okay, I went to the doctor just last week, and they said they're going to test my pressure. So they left hand first. They said high. I said cool. The right hand. They said normal. So maybe that is I don't know what caused it. So you guys can help me about that. Tell me what caused it. Why they say the left hand side is too high and the right hand side normal.
There's different ways for me to answer that to you because now I just have more questions for you. Like, what's high? What's high? Okay. Did they recheck it? No, no, no. Did they recheck it again? Because well, you're not supposed to have that big of a difference between one arm and the other. That becomes very concerning, to be honest with you.
There's a diagnosis for that. It's called, did they do an x-ray?
So why did they do that? Why did they not use the same electronic for both sides or manual for both sides? Why did they decide to alternate?
Can I just interject? Can I ask you one question? Do you like your doctor? No, it's actually a really important question. Okay. Okay. Did your doctor ever send you to a cardiologist? Okay. You really, when you go back, if you write it down from now, you really need to see a cardiologist because there are diseases wherein it's called not when you have a notching of the aorta, and the pressure gradient, the difference between both limbs, so different. It's really concerning what you're telling us. So your doctor's next step, perhaps when you go back, you'll be surprised you get a referral to the cardiologist.
Sister Clue, it looks like your mind is running. I think you want to say something.
Not why he wouldn't have asked right there and then, because I would, you know, I would. But you didn't, so that's the point. So now you know that you should. Well, I want to talk about Alzheimer's. Why? Because even here, I remember one day, my very, very first day in this church. I was talking about it last week, actually. Very first day in this church. There was a patient in the church with a caregiver. And it was amazing the way how this lady was treating this patient. I was shocked. I'm like, come on. Oh, her dress, I remember it got caught all the way up here in her collar. And everything, her underwear, everything was exposed. And she was just pulling her from right over here. I never forget it, ever. And I'm like, wow. Now, number one, the patient wasn't supposed to be in church with you. That's number one. And number two, you see, when you do these things, you don't even know who is here watching you. And I shook my head. I said, this is amazing. But I've come to realize it's because of ignorance. So many people call themselves caregivers. But how can you give care to one with a disease that you have no knowledge of the disease? So then you lend yourself to behave very ignorantly because you don't know. You don't know. No, I was trying to get a picture. So my last training class, I have a picture. This is a healthy brain, right? Look like something. And then this is a severe Alzheimer's brain. Can you imagine? It's almost a lot of the pieces are gone. So if the pieces are gone, it doesn't matter how I pull her. It doesn't matter what I say to her. She's not going to behave any differently because that part of the brain is demented. You understand? Something is going on. So you can scream at her all you want and scream louder if you want and scream loudest and get irritable and you you start acting out and you get angry. She's not going to behave any different because she can, people. Because she cannot. So your parent is not being, I know a lot of us West Indian, oh, she's so wicked and evil. She's so conniving. Like I hear it every day, and it's my culture too. But the truth is, a person who is suffering from Alzheimer's can very rarely be wicked and cruel because that part of the brain is not even there. What happened is they may have mood swings. So today they may be up, and tomorrow they may be down, and sometimes they do get angry. You don't have Alzheimer's and you get angry. They may
Preach.
get angry. They may do things that, sometimes they're scared. Absolutely. There's so much going on. So what can we do? First, you got to get educated, like Brother Brown been saying all evening, right? You got to know how this thing works. So the first thing you want to do, you want to take a look at the person, the patient maybe, or your person, your parent, family member, and you want to do some things. Communicating. How do you communicate with somebody who has Alzheimer's? Well, one of the best things is to do is to listen. They may not make sense. They may not be using the right choice of words to communicate, but you could encourage them along because this is my mom. I know she likes, I don't know, rice and peas. So she may be talking that she wants something to eat. You could say, what do you want? You want some rice and peas? Is that what you want? You sure that, you could encourage her along because you're familiar with her for years. You know the stuff. She doesn't eat ice cream. Why are you going to give her ice cream? She doesn't drink soup. Why are you making soup? You understand? So if you know the person, you encourage them as they speak. You take your time. You listen. You listen. And you always have a plan. For example, time to give them a shower. Time to get them dressed. No, nobody wants to lose their independence. None of us do, right? So don't put her in front of the closet and tell her to choose. You're going to be there for another 2 years. So give her about 3 things. Just put 3 things on the bed, maybe 4. And you want to say, which one would you like? Try as best as you can to make the person feel as if they're still a person. So whatever they can do, allow them to do it. So if she wants to wear a red pants and a purple top, it's all good. It's okay, It's okay. Let her choose it. And then if you're the person who shops for that person, then she's not going to be able to unbutton my buttons because her motor skills are going, right? Isn't your skills, your motor skill is what you use? She has to bend her fingers, she has to put them together, and the brain is not telling her how to do that. So why don't you buy some Velcro then? Don't buy a little tiny zipper. She won't be able to zip it up. No, you get angry and you're screaming, come on, we're gonna be late for the doctor. Blah, 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 blah. But the real person here who have no good sense is you. That's why you're the caregiver. So you need to educate yourself on how to take care of this person because a lot of them are not being treated properly and they can be treated better. Guys, remember, that's what Jesus talked about when he says, what the least you have done to these, you have done it unto me. You're not sick, the person is. So let's just treat them with some respect. Let's try to, we may not be able to put ourselves in their shoe, but the good thing is that we all want to live to be old. And you're gonna get there. You're gonna get there. And there'll be somebody treating you like Sister Max said, no food. No food. Yeah. Oh yes. Every day. Yeah. You're gonna get there. So you gotta pay attention to what you're doing. They wonder. Sometimes people come to look for them, other family members. Don't let them come at that time of the day when they're at their worst. Because they already may not remember who they are. So let's say the person is at their peak in the morning. And tell the family member, come on over in the morning. You know what I mean? Play some background music. Give them their favorite whatever. Bring an album. And come on over and talk with her. And please, don't talk with the person as if they're an idiot. Because every now and again, that memory may come back. You speak to them as if they have sense. They're intelligent. So you have an intelligent conversation like you do your baby. You don't, ba boo ba 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 boo boo. He's 2 years old. Speak some language into him. And don't take it personal, guys. If today your mom don't remember who you are, or your husband or your wife, it's all good. You're not gonna make her remember. It's all good. She may remember next week. Still come by. Have some patience. She may never remember. That's still good too. It's all right. It's all right. That's why we have to enjoy each other, like the doctor said now, right now. Because Alzheimer's is not just for the old. The doctors will tell you that this thing is beginning now in your 30s. Oh yeah, it's moving less and less. Like Dr. Charles was telling us prior, how the children are now having these diabetes, 13, 12 that you usually see. Yeah, Alzheimer's is going, it's coming up. Yes. So the people are having these things younger and younger. What are the reasons? I mean, they're still trying to find out, but they're not so sure. They're still working on it, but nobody have all the answers. However, this is what we deal with. So I just want to implore you, a lot of us are caregivers. A lot of us may see the neighbor wondering about, he's so stupid. Every morning he come and stand on my lawn. Yeah, but if somebody elderly come and stand on your lawn every morning, don't you think something is going on? Shout all you want because he's not going to move. But maybe if you go outside, because earlier on, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, that's the time of the morning. He would have been out attending to his lawn, putting on his flowers. Maybe you want to go outside and say, how is it going? I see I have some roses over here. Do you want me to help you plant some? And maybe you could just engage him or her instead of getting yourself worked up. You could go and you could help. So I am like passionate with the elderly because I see it every day and it really bothers my spirit. I'm not so sure what's going on. I guess we have less patients, doctors. I don't know. Our patients have been worn thin, but I do believe it's lack of knowledge. The Bible says what happened when you lack of knowledge? The people perish. It's lack of knowledge. You don't know, you don't understand. But there is so much out there, like Brother Brown says. There's so many ways of being educated on these stuff. And if you must get some help, because it's hard doing it, you have many, many places that will offer you help. Help to write the will, help to talk about hospice, help every single thing in this brochure, and it's free. They'll tell you all you need to know. Avail yourself of knowledge, people. I tell you something. Go ahead, sir. Just come.
I really appreciate the things that Charles said at first. You were really defending the good doctors of today. I've been going to doctors maybe before you were born.
Uh-huh.
And let me tell you, there were some rotten doctors around.
Mhm.
Rotten doctors. Doctors who have made people die before their time. My mother was a patient in a hospital in Brooklyn. She was an asthmatic. She was there for 3 months. Tell you, there's no cure for asthma. She was there 3 months with asthma. In any bad stress, she talked to me and told me what to bring her. I went the following morning with what she asked for. And when when I went to the nurse, I said, I'm here to see Enid Robinson. She said, she did last night.
Jesus have mercy. Mm.
I left the woman talking to me and telling me what she wanted.
Mhm.
I said, what happened? She said, well, the doctor had to tell you. Call the doctor. I'll call the doctor. I called my husband. And the day before my mother died, someone went into the ward downstairs, the children's ward downstairs, and shot a doctor, then killed him. So when the doctor was called to talk to me about my mother, we went to his office, my husband and I, and while we were in there was a knock on the door. A couple of doctors came in, but they think somebody has come to shoot somebody. No, for one dead last night. So when we asked the doctor, what happened? I said, I left my mother here talking to me last night. I don't know if the doctors then was not bright as the doctors today. He said, you know what the answer the doctor gave me? We were trying out a new drug on Enid.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
He was very honest in telling me that, but
Mhm.
the doctors couldn't tell you that today.
Mm.
And so I'm saying we have
Yes,
good doctors and we have doctors. Matthew, maybe those were the days when we thought, they're trying something else,
Mhm.
this don't work, so they're trying something else. But in Brooklyn, the hospital there, they use a lot of junkies and they use them as practice.
Mhm.
Doctors come from all state and practice on them,
Mhm.
So everybody, I was a patient in Brooklyn Hospital for months upon months because I had asthma the worst way. In the asthma room in the night when I go there, getting my treatment, one of the doctors tell me I come in because I don't have no bed.
Oh.
One tell me again, if I don't leave, they're going to call police for me.
Mm. Mm.
My doctor had a glaucoma. Drugs can hurt us as well as they can help us. But doctors go to universities and hospitals and train to treat patients with drugs. And drugs can kill you. And a lot of our illnesses caused from medication. So let's not go around it. Our doctors, we have very good doctors. I go to doctors in Long Island, and they are very good. Every doctor is good. Some they are killers. But thank God for good doctors. We have good doctors, and we have doctors who don't care.
Amen. Amen.
Thank you.
Okay, I just wanted to share something with you. What causes Alzheimer's? Now, I don't want to ask my doctors here because then there's a host of things that contributes to this. But I find it very interesting. I want to read something for you. Heart disease, stroke, high blood pressure, metabolic conditions such as diabetes, obesity, and the list goes on and on. Can, may, doesn't have to, but may contribute to this. But that's not the part I really am interested in. This is the part I'm interested in. How can we help to prevent it? It's the same that the Bible tells you every day. A proper nutritious diet. Charles has been saying it all evening. Physical activity. But listen to these two. You see, the Bible, the Lord knows exactly what the body needs. Listen to these two. Social engagement.
Yes.
Mentally stimulating pursuits helps with your cognitive decline. Can you imagine? So when you sit home all day with your cell phone looking at your social media, sweetheart, you're just killing your brain. Not doing anything good for you. You have to have social engagement. That's what keeps the body alive. And mental stimulating pursuits. I love that. Some of us, our entire week is consists of gossip. You're killing your brain. You're killing your brain. You're killing your brain. That's all you're doing. You must have some. The Bible says iron sharpens iron. He knew what he was talking about. It sharpens. This is your iron. This is your iron. So if you have a company that all you talk about is nonsense, you're not going to live too long. Believe it. Here are the doctors. You're not going to live very long because you're not sharpening your iron. Can you imagine? Very simple, the regular stuff they tell us. You've been saying it all day. That's what helps. So, guys, after we read the Word of God, take a look at our health. The diagnosis the doctor may give you. However, there's a lot of help to be found in the Word of God. Word of God. Mental engagement. Remember, Jesus called everything into existence, but not you. He didn't call you into existence. He touched and formed and then put his mouth over you. You understand? So therefore, you need each other. You need people, not an instrument in your hand. They're going to tell you all kind of nonsense. But it's people that you need, that interaction, that touch.
Thank you. Thank you. We're going to be wrapping this up. I've got another maybe 15 more minutes left. Any other thoughts? Questions? Oh, we have a question
Oh.
from a young one here.
No, I think she wants a reaction to what she said.
Oh, if the panel can please respond to, I mean, that is a very
Yes.
heart-touching, but go ahead.
Definitely.
Is there a question?
Definitely what you said is true. A bad doctor, a good doctor. It's not just doctor. Bad people, good people. All over the world, there is good and there is bad. Yes. Yes. I agree with what you said. There's good people, there's bad people. There's good pastors, there are bad pastors. There's good everything. And we should not really be surprised when we see good and bad. Everything like my sister said right here, everything is in the Bible. God said there will be good and there will be bad. But the good thing is you have more than one doctor in the world. And there's something called second opinion. If somebody says something to you and you really don't agree with it, just go and, talk to another person, another doctor. And you guys are so blessed in this church. You have two great doctors here. And I always tell people in my church, I became a doctor not because of the name doctor, not because of the money, not because of the work, but just to be service, just to give my service to everybody. Like you won't even believe how many people call me, oh, what is this? Oh, this is what somebody said. Oh, this is the diagnosis that somebody gave me. This is the medication that they said I should take. Should I take it? Should I not take it? What is the side effect of this? What is this? What is that? Not to mention my parents, my father. I'm like a speed dial on my father's phone. Like before my father would take any medication that a specialist give him. I'm like, Daddy, I'm just internal medicine. I don't know anything about this. But he would say, well, you're still my doctor and I need you to tell me this. So you can always, always ask people. You can say, oh, Dr. Charles, this is it. Can you look at this for me? Should I go ahead and take it? Should I stop it now? Should I do this? It's always, always good to have a second opinion. So that is very, very important.
And this is 1989. Elder, not the one. No, 1989. I had an experience in Jamaica, West, with the head doctor at the university hospital. We situated at Mona. He did something, and I questioned him. And the doctor gave me wrong information and caused my first wife to die in the hospital.
Oh, sorry.
And the church that I was the first elder for, they rise up against me. And they say, all manner of things against me because my wife is very genuine. And I bear and forbear. And my sister, she was a nurse at the university. When her sister died, I was blamed until when it revealed. And that got me because he said. So when I'm asked a question, I say, I'm speaking from experience. What I see with doctors and nurses.
I'm gonna interject for 1 second.
I am going to
Can I?
I am going to all of them get a hold of ministry and study. Get a hold of ministry and all get hold of because there are a lot of information for all of us to learn from. And before a nurse or a doctor do any form of prescribing anything or diagnose, pray to God that God will open up your faculty, give you the wisdom, the knowledge, and understanding what to do before we go and speak.
Hold on 1 second. We're gonna try something a little different. What we do in the morning has to continue in the afternoon. I'm gonna ask you to come. I'm gonna ask you to come. Come. Come on. Come on. We're gonna do something a little different. Come on. This morning we talked about forgiveness. This morning we talked about why we are angry. This morning we talked about things that are locked up. And I have been praying for you. Because the first time I preached here, I was so nervous. And you took the time to talk to me and you prayed for me. And God makes no accident. Because today, my brother, we as providers, we want to apologize to you. Because I feel that. Do you feel that you were wounded? And nobody ever said, I am sorry. Please forgive us. And I pray that you can heal. And if it's okay, church, can we just take 2 minutes and we want to pray with him? Because we need for him to understand. Doesn't matter. You're wounded. And we are willing to step out and make sure that we pay attention to what God wants us to pay attention to. And just perhaps today, healed, forgiven, joyful, move on, move away dilated heart, move away big heart, move away physical disease, high blood pressure. Where did it come from for you, my brother? We don't know. But what we do know that there is a balm in Gilead that heals the wounded soul. So God is the only physician who does it right every time. So we are willing to tell you we are sorry. Can I get permission to be prayed for so we can pray? We'll hold hands. If someone wants to pray, if someone is moved to pray, we will hold hands. If you want to say sorry to him.
To be honest with you, I'm going to say something. What Dr. Charles is doing. No, I don't need the microphone. Oh, you like the mic because of camera? Okay, all right. Just because of the camera's sake. What I'm saying, I accept the apology. I pray over the number of years to God to help me to cope. I train as a home health aide personnel. I dealt with a lot of patients in the past, even Alzheimer. I remember they called me and they said, this case, nobody want to work with this case. I pray and I went. And the first time I remember I dealt with a case, I noticed a time factor. When it got 4 p.m. in the afternoon, sundown, that man started to cry. And he wanted to go out. I prayed. And I remember the following day, I said, yes, 4 p.m. is a different thing. So you know what I did? I take him out for a walk. And we went out on the street and he said, where are you going? So we're going to walk. And I talk. And we reason together. I take him out of the home. When the wife called, she asked me, how I'm doing. I said, he's doing well. She said, is he crying? I said, no. She said, what you did? I said, took him out of the house and we went out for a walk. And I said, you are my brother. We hold hands together. And I work with him. And then, unfortunately, they said, well, okay, then. They thanked me very much. I never knew that there was camera in the house. And I never knew that the man, his father-in-law or his son-in-law is a police. Until he said to me one day, he said, Mr. Brown, God bless you for taking care of the family member. And I said, well, I paid to do the job. He said, no, we have camera in the house. We are watching you. And we say, oh, you treat him. The man one time said to me, where's my wife? I want my wife now. I don't want you inside the house. Come out. Started to shout at me. I said, listen, your wife will be here in a few minutes' time. He said, are you certain about that? I said, yes. I said, call your wife. And he called, where are you, sweetie? I'm just right around the corner soon. Come, are you okay? Yes. So, brethren, I know what I'm talking about. I am a trained home health aide personnel. But I come out of that field because of lack of getting in money to survive.
So, Brother Brown, we don't want you to miss the opportunity.
Tell you something, Brother Brown, and that's wonderful. But all of us, it's easy sometimes to give certain things, but even while we give it, it doesn't mean that we're healed. It can help us on the journey. You understand? It could help us on the journey. It makes us feel better that moment. But then another week or two, we slip back into ourselves. So I think what Dr. Charles wants to do, she wants us all to pray for permanent healing. I'm going to take the liberty to use that word. Permanent healing. We're healed from head to toe. And even if we have the environment to recite those fasts, they're sweetened. The words are sweetened with milk and honey. That's when we know that healing has really taken place. So healing is a journey, and we have no time limit on it. No time limit.
I recommended that you need to study. You guys willing to go and do a research on Ministry of Healing? Because I'll be coming back, I'm not going to ease up.
What do you mean by you be coming
When I
back?
say coming back, I mean based on what I want to see us, who God called to carry out the plan of redemption and also restoration.
I hope we have that on tape because they will be voting for new officers soon.
I was about to say to him, then that's after you have read
Be
your
careful.
ministry and healing, then you need to join the health
Be
team.
careful, or you just may be the next head of the health ministry. Be careful.
Sister, my dear sister, I'm going to tell you something. Whether the head or the tail, I am sober. And I'm not going to talk about my past life as an elder in the church,
Yeah.
but I am well educated, but I'm just on a low profile.
Amen. So we have already one. So let's pray. God, we just humble ourselves so that we know when you speak, let us know to keep silence. We know that you can show up at any minute and deliver us in an instant. The Lord giveth, and he taketh away. For all of our hurt, Brother Brown, today, this moment, we put you at the altar. We are, as Sister Clue said, so beautifully, you're asking for permanent healing. We're asking you for the healing so that when you feel like you need to add to God, he says, I am enough. May you be healed. May you be well. May you feel the physician that heals permanently is the one who will, at the appointed time, return. But for now, may you be happy. May you be receiving of the peace that passeth all understanding. We receive it in the name of the Lord. May you walk away a new man, free. Would you be free of the burden that has carried you all these years? Forgiven, healed, and forgiven. Amen.
At this time, if there are no more questions, I'm sure we're not going anywhere. We'll be here, God willing, next Sabbath, and so on and so forth. But we want to thank you all for coming today, staying as part of Health Day. Want to thank the panel for taking their time and to come and to share with their expertise. And I hope everyone has gotten something throughout the day, from the morning to the afternoon session to right now. Forgiveness, it's for you. Learn to forgive. You will be blessed. You will be happier. You will live longer. So I'm going to ask my wife to come so we can maybe close a closing prayer as we close off, as we close down to the Sabbath day. Oh, right before we close, we will still be here for a few more minutes and check people's blood pressure. It looks like nobody wanted to go there. So I'll still be here, and we'll be having some free blood pressure screening next door. Okay, so we're going to pray.
Lord, we thank you for the Sabbath. We thank you that you have blessed your children with knowledge for them to share with each other. So, Lord, as the Sabbath ends, we ask that you shower the Sabbath's blessing on every person here and their family. Take us throughout the week, keep us filled, bring us back safely again to worship you, is my prayer in your name. Amen.
Amen.